I'm Denton Davidson, senior editor for Gold Derby. Reggie Rock Bythewood is an Image Awards winner for Gun Hill and other acclaimed titles such as Notorious, New York Undercover, and Shots Fired to his credits. We're here to discuss the Apple TV Plus series Swagger, which was inspired by the AAU youth basketball experience of NBA star Kevin Durant. And I just want to start off by asking, how did this whole working relationship with Kevin Durant come to be? Because that's an unusual start.
Yeah, I got a call from Imagine Entertainment where Brian Grazer, heads up the company, and he had a meeting with Kevin Durant, and they just talked about his youth basketball days. And Brian and Francie Calfo was there at the time, asked me to take a meeting with KD, as we call him. And at the time, I just had no idea what to expect. He was playing at Golden State Warriors at the time, and I took a flight out to the Bay and met with him. And honestly, just even on the flight, I was just like, I don't think I'm going to do this thing, But when I sat there and I spoke with him, I started to see a narrative that wasn't truly at its heart about basketball. It was really about growing up in America. And that really inspired me. And, I saw a bit of myself in that story. And also that was really important to me is that, they weren't looking for a biopic. It was just really using inspiration from KD's life. And then I was able to just bring in, points of inspiration from, things I've seen with my kids and personal experiences. And I was just really locked in.
So Friday Night Lights is another production from Brian Grazer. So it's another sports TV show. And similar to that, this is really about growing up in that sort of way. It's not just about basketball, just like that's not just about football. That's one of the things that drew me in as an audience member. But I've seen so many of these sports shows where it's so obvious that the actors have no athletic ability. I mean, where you're watching, you're like, they can't really dribble. What's so impressive about this show is like these players they're playing and they're good. So I'm curious about the casting, how difficult that was, and particularly Isaiah Hill, who is the rising star of this show, who really does a great job leading in his first big role.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, the show is not just about basketball, but because we really want the show to feel authentic, the basketball has to be authentic. And so we did a couple of things. We had had a wide search looking for the star of our show, as you said, played by Isaiah Hill. And we auditioned actors, we auditioned ball players, and Isaiah hadn't acted before. But he, number one, was just so legit as a ball player, and it was just really exciting to watch. And even when he dunks, he doesn't just like dunk. It's like he just, as you say, put some hot sauce on it, And so we got him with a great acting coach named Michelle Shea. And he approached that process in many ways, the same way like an athlete approaches a process, where they want to, up their skills in their game. And I was just very proud of the work he did. And then with our actors like Corvenjane Wallace and Khalil Harris and so many of our actors who are not ball players, they're actors. We trained them for about 3 months so that they would be legit. And so for us, for our show, if you see a ball go through the hoop, we're never, ever cutting away to, it going through the rim, it's like we always keep it in a wide shot. So if you see somebody make a shot, it's because they made it. Yeah. We didn't even, because the authenticity was so important, and in particular with the basketball, if you see somebody dunk, they're really dunking. And it really just freed us up to, not have to worry about that. And it was just really a great part of the vision that we're able to execute.
I want to touch on episode 7, which is called #Radicals, and it's one of the ones that you direct yourself, and they take the basketball team takes a road trip down south for a tournament. And there's a lot to unpack in this episode. They stop at a diner to eat. They're teenagers. They're a little rambunctious. The cops get called. There's an altercation, and the kids respond differently than the coaches. The coaches have a little more history about, what this means and the ramifications it can have. The kids are a little more prone to be rebellious. What story are you telling in terms of not just the injustices that are still happening in America, but how generations approach these things today?
Well, when we, think about, the way generations approached it, there was something that was like really a point of inspiration for #radicals. And, the name of the diner is Carolyn's, and it was like Carolyn's 55, as if it was 1955. And you see the sequence 8/28 throughout, and that's the date that Emmett Till was murdered. And, we really drew inspiration from arguably the most famous 14-year-old in American history, and really asked the question of how we treat kids in America. And that was an underlying theme, not just actually for #radicals, but throughout the season. And I think in particular, for this, the one that you mentioned, it's the first, it's their first basketball game since their pandemic shutdown. And so they're dealing with the aftermath of George Floyd and Breonna, and being in a pandemic, and playing, a basketball game for the very first time. So I think it was just a cascade, if you will, of how the world is changing and emerging, and these young people are trying to figure out what this is. And this sort of older generation, and not even that old, our coaches are in their 30s, but their experience and interaction with police haven't always been positive. And so they are really protective and want the kids to just fall in line and not combat anything the police say.
I also love the use of technology in the show. I mean, you can see the Instagram notifications pop up actually on the screen as you're watching. And it really just speaks to how much power that has on youth. And one of the things was these young players developing their social media following, which I never even thought about before. I'm sure it happens, but it wasn't even on my radar of getting attention from coaches and sponsors. What made you want to bring that sort of technology to the forefront in that way, to show that basketball is sort of life? It's for these kids, it's more than just a game,
because it's authentic,
Yeah.
and as well, particularly during the pandemic, there weren't coaches traveling all over the place, and so highlight videos became more important. Putting footage, live streaming games became more important. And, just as a sense of pride, and, the followings for, these young players that just really want the exposure is so heightened. And I think the other thing that's just really interesting about it, when we say it's just not basketball, is it's just also a reflection of the world that we live in right now. Just the way people use social media appropriately, inappropriately, be subjective. But, we just felt like their lives, their game just really holds a mirror up to this space that we're living in right now.
Well, Reggie Rock Bythewood, thank you for speaking with Gold Derby today about Swagger on Apple TV Plus. It's such a thought-provoking, great show, and best of luck at the Emmys this year.
Thank you.